Guys, how is everybody doing? Welcome in here back into Slaughterhouse Sports. And today I wanted to talk about Penn State and James Franklin making a big time splash hire. James Franklin, I love it. He hires Kotelnicki. Kotelnicki, try to say that quickly. Kotelnicki, K-O-T. Oh, I just got a message. All right, Kotelnicki, Andy Kotelnicki. What a, all I got to say, guys, is I love this hire. I love this hire. I couldn't be bigger on Drew Allar. I think Drew Allar will be the #1 pick in next year's draft. And I know that it sounds crazy to you guys. It sounded crazy when I said that Bo Nix a couple of years ago was going to end up being a Heisman, or it would have sounded crazy. I don't know if I even went that far. But Michael Penix, the same thing. Drew Allar, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You have Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And now you have a coordinator that has done the most with less. And that's the mark of a great coach, is taking personnel around him and elevating that personnel. And Jaden Daniels, a really good quarterback, a 3-star quarterback out of California, okay? And then Jason Bean, a longtime backup quarterback. This year, Jason Bean needed to play a lot of games. Jason Bean beat Oklahoma. Okay, the backup quarterback beat Oklahoma this year. Lance Leipold has done a really nice job winning 7 games at Kansas football. Kansas, we all know it's a basketball school. It was the doormat of the Power 5. It was one of the worst teams in the Power 5. And if you guys watch that offense, you could see that they motion on a lot of plays. They'll run reverses. They'll run stretch run. It's a ton of misdirection. And it's the complete opposite of Mike Yurachek, and it's the complete opposite of Kirk Soraka's offense. Okay, Soraka was a guy that would run the football. You know, he liked the PJ Fleck style, which is run the football and let your defense win, and we're not going to make mistakes. And Mike Yurachek, his offense was really not a lot of pre-snap motion at all, pretty unimaginative, very easy to defend, had a decent quarterback, you know, in Sean Clifford and Drew Allar. Wide receiver-wise, he had some talent. But this year, I mean, there was a former coach that I actually heard on a podcast. I don't really feel like saying the coach's name because it was damning of Mike Yurachek. And he just said that when the team played Penn State, that Penn State's offense was like not at all that difficult to scheme up against, meaning that a lot of times they let their players just make plays, but the thing about Yurachek is that it wasn't a lot of pre-snap motion. It wasn't a lot of trickeration. You kind of knew what you were getting. He said, the same coach said Michigan's offense has a lot of intricacies where it was very hard for defensive linemen and linebackers and safeties to fill gaps. And with Penn State, he felt that the gap scheme, you know, the run games, the zones weren't as intricate. So the person wasn't the voice of the Lord, but I definitely took that into account. Yurachek is a nice person. He's good at coaching quarterback. In terms of scheme, though, that offense, boy, oh boy, it was shaky and shaky. They weren't creating explosive plays for their wide receivers. They were one of the worst offenses at creating those long passes. And Drew Allar has a big-time arm. It's not like Drew Allar, it's not like he threw all those touchdowns in Medina, Ohio, and that he doesn't have a cannon for an arm. He can throw it about 60 yards. He has all the talent. He has all the ability in the world. And now you put him in an offense like a Lance Leipold offense, which is what Andy Kotelnicki is all about, a Lance Leipold offense. Holy smokes, are we going to have fun in State College? Holy smokes. Go get you a tight end from the portal. Go get a #1 wide receiver. Go get wide receivers and tight ends, because this running back crew is also the best running backs in the country. So you have Drew Allar, a 5-star quarterback, Nick Singleton, like probably a 5-star running back, and Katron Allen. Katron Allen's a blur out there. This offense should roll. This offense should be spectacular, okay? And finally, you get the play caller to make it happen. It's up to James Franklin to let Kotelnicki institute a lot of the Kansas offense into the program, because Franklin does have a big, shall we say, influence on the program. James Franklin is a prideful person, okay? And I wonder how much he's going to be meddling here with the offense, probably a decent amount. But for Kotelnicki, he gets outside, I guess, of Leipold. I'm sure he loved being with Lance, but to go to Happy Valley, to go to Penn State, to go to the Big Ten Conference at a premier school, you have a premier quarterback, and you have stud running backs, and you're just going to need to portal a couple of wide receivers in there with the NIL that Penn State football is all about. This thing is going to happen. It's going to go down, and this could be a championship season, because this is a championship move by Penn State. This is like Joe Brady possibly going to LSU. Now, if it worked out like Kotelnicki's the next Joe Brady, then this move is officially one of the greatest moves in the history of Penn State football and in the history of college football, because elevating Joe Brady, all right, to offensive coordinator from the New Orleans Saints was one of the greatest moves in college football history. It allowed for Joe Burrow and that team to freaking be the greatest offense. So I don't know if Drew Allar is going to be Joe Burrow, but Drew Allar can be a Heisman finalist. He can win the Heisman Trophy next year. He has the talent, because from one year to the next, when you start raking in that experience, okay, and Drew Allar's played a whole Big Ten schedule and went 10-2, and I know it wasn't smooth sailing. I love that Penn State, I love that they took their medicine a little bit, and they weren't trying to just get the flashy big name guy. You're not trying to get an NFL guy. You're not trying to get like, I mean, I like Joe Moorhead a little. You know, he's a good offensive coordinator. Some of these guys might have been all right. Your Garrett Rileys, your Cliff Kingsburys, they're exciting. Kotelnicki to me is like, this to me is as flashy of a hire as anything, because you're literally trying to bring in the Kansas offense. Because every time my friends would ask me, or people would ask, what does the best offense in college football look like? Who's the best pound-for-pound play caller on the offensive side of the ball? You know whose name would come up pretty dang quickly? Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks. They put up offense, and they've done it everywhere. They've put up offense at Buffalo, and they put up offense in Kansas, because it's misdirection. A lot of times it's play action, move your quarterback either right or left, and throw back to the tight end. The tight end goes through the wash, so a lot of times it's play action. Everybody's going right, flowing right. Your tight end goes left, bang, explosive chunk play. That's what Kansas football was all about. It was like a Ferris wheel of death trying to guard that team. You have to guard every blade of grass when you play Liepold. They'll throw out screens. They'll swing the ball out. Then they'll run it in the middle of the field. They will spread you out. Every type of different formation, tons of movement. When I watched Penn State, they would have one guy isolated to the field and 3 guys in the boundary, and they rarely did any sort of motion. That Michigan game was the one I attended to in person, and the plays were pretty predictable play calls. They were. So I think Kotelnicki can be unpredictable, cutting edge, and it's a big-time move by James Franklin. If he gives Kotelnicki the keys, I think that we could see something. Now, is every plan foolproof? No. But I think this is the best hire of the coaching cycle so far. I think that it's usually tremendous, because Liepold usually gets all the credit, and you rarely see somebody dig in and do their research in the Kotelnicki, and I think that you could have just found a gem. You could have just discovered a gem. That's what I think. When I think of this hire, I'm like, that's a gem hire. That's somebody who knows what they're doing. That's people at Penn State. James Franklin, I'll give you credit for sure. and people at Penn State, I'll give you credit. Those are people that watch the sport of college football and not just in the Big Ten. And they see, okay, this Lance Leipold offense now, I want a piece of that. I want the formula to that. You know, Jesse Pinkman and the types of things that he was creating in Breaking Bad. Oh, I want that. I want that. You know, that's the sort of thing is like, okay, this person's, you know, you look at Lance Leipold, he's making the best pasta dishes in the country or making the best steak. Who's the understudy to that? Who's involved in making that? Because at Kansas, they're doing more with less. So I love the hire. Congrats, Penn State. Let's win some games now at Penn State.